happiness advantage is the discovery that our brains work better at positive than they do at negative, neutral, or stress. In fact, every single business and educational outcome improves when we're positive. The problem is, in the midst of an economic crisis, in the midst of our jobs and our workload, we're finding just the opposite ways of working. In fact, when the Conference Board survey came out in January of this year, we found in the midst of high unemployment, the greatest amount of job dissatisfaction in the history of polling. What we're discovering is something extraordinary here, is that I think that the formula that we're using to do our work is flawed. I just spoke this past week here in Houston to St. John's School, which was wonderful. They wanted to have a talk on happiness right before many of the students were taking the PSATs. The reason for that is the happiness advantage. If you can get people to become more positive in the midst of their challenge, they perform significantly better. Their success rates rise, even their intelligence rises. But another school up in New England had a different idea. They said, we know that there's more to just creating performance than just intellect. So we have a wellness week each week, and we invite in experts from around the world, and we pay a lot of money for them. Monday night, we have the world's leading expert on depression. Tuesday night, we have the world's leading expert coming in to talk to students about eating disorders. Wednesday night, we have somebody talking about school violence and teen bullying. And then Thursday night, we have illicit drug use. And then Friday night, we're trying to decide between risky sex or happiness. And I said, well, that's most people's Friday nights, but that... They didn't find that funny. But I said, that's not a wellness week, that's a sickness week. All you've done is describe all the negative things, and the absence of the negative is not health. The absence of disease is not health. If you really want to talk about the positive side of the curve, we have to be tapping into those levels of optimism, the social support, and managing energy and stress in a positive way to find a way to get back up off the floor and to help other people to be able to do that as well. Part of the research we've been discovering, and you as the UP community get to hear this a week before it actually comes out, I did a study in the busy tax season of 2009. This is January to April, which we knew would be extremely difficult normally, but would be very difficult given what happened in 2008. We were working with KPMG, and we took their tax managers and split them into two different groups and trained 50% of the managers, teaching them about positive psychology, about how they can create positive habits, what habits they can do, how they can buoy themselves and create a buffer against the negativity and stress around them, and left the other ones just at neutral. 1 week later, not only do we find significantly higher levels of happiness, but significantly higher levels of performance, which proves exactly what we were talking about, that happiness and performance are linked. But that's not the interesting part of the study. What we wanted to find out is how long this effect lasts. And we looked through the whole 4-month period and found that 4 months later, the people involved with that experiment who had gone through the training still had significantly higher levels of happiness, life satisfaction, and job performance compared to the group that didn't. What that means is we can create change, and that the companies that invest in happiness reap a long-term dividend, not only in terms of the happiness of their employees, but the success rate of their employees as well. The problem is that our formula for success is flawed. I think the reason that oftentimes we feel so unhappy is that we think if I can just work harder in the present, I'll be more successful. And if I'm more successful, then I'll be happier. That undergirds most of the companies and schools, philosophies, even our parenting styles that I've worked with in 42 countries. The problem is that formula is scientifically broken and backwards. We think if we can just hit those sales targets, then we'll be happier. If this economic crisis is over, then we'll be happier. If I can lose those 10 pounds or get into the school I want to, then we'll be happier. But it turns out every time we have a victory, our brain merely changes the goalpost of what success looks like. So eventually, we just keep pushing happiness over the cognitive horizon. But more importantly than that, the research over the past 2 years has confirmed the idea that our brains at positive work significantly more successfully and more intelligently, which means happiness is the precursor to that greater level of success. If we can find a way of becoming positive in the present, we can then raise our success rates because we're able to work harder, faster, and more intelligently. And if we can reverse that order in our companies, we can find a way of being able to challenge the way that we've been looking at the world. Because what we've been finding is optimism's part of the reason we're in this mess. Optimism causes us to buy homes that we can't afford or sugarcoat the present and make bad decisions for the future. But that's irrational optimism. What we are studying is something called rational optimism, which takes a realistic assessment of the present, but maintains an optimistic belief for the future, which not only turns on our brains to its highest levels and allows our students to perform at their highest levels and our companies to perform at their highest levels, but it allows us to actually ripple that positivity out to other people as well, to find a way to get through that challenge even faster than we were previously. What we're finding is that happiness is a work ethic, and that happiness is not the belief that we don't need to change. Happiness is the belief that we can change. Thank you very much.